Welcome, supers, to the EntrepreNEWS. I'm Super Joe Pardo, and I have so many stories to cut through today and lessons to be brought out from them. Let's start first with the top story that I've been following for like almost a month now. China's Evergrande crisis clock ticking as crucial debt default looms here. So that they are up to $305 billion in debt. And that's hung over the markets for the last couple of weeks. But the crisis could deepen further if Evergrande fails to meet a deadline on Saturday night to stump up $83.5 million in bond interest payments, triggering an official default. Evergrande has already given a 30-day grace period to make the repayment after missing the initial deadline back in September. It has since missed other key offshore dollar-denominated bond payments worth around $193.3 million. The clock is now ticking on those debts as well. The sprawling property to electric cars empire founded by former steel executive in the mid-90s has been scrambling to offload assets in order to pay back some of its loans. Its Chinese creditors are expected to be prioritized, with foreign investors at the back of the queue. So we very much, like I said, have been following this story. So it looks like the date is this Saturday night. If they don't meet that 83.5 million by Saturday night, they going to have a problem. And hopefully they either get the money to pay back the creditors, at least make some good on the debt. We talked yesterday in a video about how they made one payment for like $20 million to onshore Chinese bond, I guess it was bond payments or coupon payments. And yeah, it's not looking good, but hey, we're not out of time yet. We'll keep following the story, and maybe this weekend I'll have to do an Evergrande update on Sunday morning. So if you want to see that, make sure to leave a comment down below, because I would be more than happy to jump on and track this news. Following up on that, Evergrande teeters, Chinese media walks a fine line. So as things have been developing with the Evergrande story, the hashtag "What does Evergrande mean for the real estate market?" and that's in quotes, has been viewed more than 160 million times on one platform. I'm guessing that platform is WeChat, which is huge in China. But if trouble threatens for China's economy, you wouldn't know about it from reading the country's headlines. Apparently, they have just mostly been staying away from talking about Evergrande, probably to kind of quell the panic. But the problem with doing that is, we have social media, they have social media, and people talk. And when you start talking about affecting like a third of the economy, a lot of people are going to talk, and a lot of things are going to come out that you don't necessarily want to come out. And it makes it look a lot worse when you're not talking about it in the news. I could go to the opposite way here with American news and say sometimes we talk too much about things and they last too long in the news cycle. But the opposite is people panic because then, they're like, oh, well, they're not talking about it, but clearly it's a problem. Only on Friday did the country's central bank talk about it, which we talked about in a previous video. And yeah, it's kind of scary because like they have protests going on and people that like want their money, they want to feel secure, they want to feel safe, and they're not getting it. They're not even feeling secure in thinking that everything's going to be safe and secure, and everything's going to work out the way it needs to for them as well as the rest of the world. And which is one of the reasons why I've been tracking the story so closely, day in, day out here on the EntrepreNEWS. So make sure you get subscribed, follow along on Apple Podcasts, whatever you're watching this on, and track with us, and hopefully this will be crisis averted. Facebook plans new group name to revamp image, says The Verge. The Verge says new name could be announced next week. Company under scrutiny for handling user safety, hate speech, and Zuckerberg pushing into augmented reality. Yeah, so it's one of those things where, and I talked about this in a previous video, so maybe I'll link that video up here, is how should you save your fix your brand, or should you start a new brand? And in this case, Facebook is pretty stained. I don't know that changing the name is going to work out that well. You think about Comcast. People have historically hated Comcast, even people who work at Comcast. I know plenty of people who have worked at Comcast and hate it. And what did they do? Well, they realized, people don't really like the name Comcast, and it has a kind of bad reputation. So what do? We're Xfinity. And yeah, no, I mean, I guess in some ways it's worked out. It's worked out well enough for them to continue to use the name. But it's kind of gave them like a fresh slate to the consumer who isn't following along that closely, might not even realize that Comcast is a thing. And over time, Comcast will just, the name will just fade into the background of history, even though it's NBC Comcast, NBC Universal, or whatever they're calling themselves today, is a thing. So, I think Facebook probably should look at changing the name, but it's going to be tough. I mean, it's one of the most valuable names on the planet, and even Google, who created Alphabet, is still called Google for Google and for Google's sake. So, I don't think that was much as because Google has a bad reputation as much as like say a Comcast or a Facebook, but we will see. So it's just something to think about. So I'll link that video up here for you to check out about whether or not you should be trying to fix your brand or just start over. The economic rebound is still waiting for workers. Despite school reopenings and the end of some federal aid, many people are in no rush to land a job. Savings and health concerns are playing a role. There was one particular story I wanted to point out from this, I think this was a New York Times article, where it was talking about a lady who decided that, she really didn't want to go back to the way things were pre-pandemic for herself. So she took the initiative. Here you go. So Rachel Eager spent last fall at home taking the last class for her bachelor's degree over Zoom while waiting to be recalled to her job at a New York City after-school program. That call never came. So Miss Eager, 25, is looking for work. She has applied for dozens of jobs and had a handful of interviews so far without luck. But she is taking her time. Ms. Eager says she is still worried about catching COVID-19. She would prefer to work remotely, and if she does end up taking an in-person job, she wants it to be worth the risk, and she doesn't want another job with low pay, little flexibility, and no benefits. The quote here says many people are realizing that the ways things were pre-pandemic were not sustainable and not benefiting them. She has been applying for jobs in data analysis and nonprofit management and other fields that would offer better pay, benefits, and a sense of purpose. Miss Eager, who is vaccinated, said that she has had always been careful with money and that she built savings this year by staying home, socking away unemployment benefits, and other aid. My financial situation is okay, and I think that is 99% of the reason that I can be choosy about my job prospects. According to this, Americans have saved trillions of dollars since the pandemic began. Much of that wealth is concentrated among high earners who mostly kept their jobs, reduced spending on dining and vacations, and benefited from soaring stock market. But many lower income Americans, too, were able to set aside money thanks to the government's multi-trillion-dollar response to the pandemic, which included not only direct cash assistance, but also increased food aid, forbearance for all mortgages and student loans, and an eviction moratorium, all of which play a role into why you know it's a this is a real problem. This is a problem for employers to get people back, is because people did sock that money away. They couldn't necessarily go out depending on where they lived in, and the mortgage forbearance helped, save like thousands and thousands of dollars a month per person, right? So, or per family, depending on how, where you're at. So, it's one of those things where you just have to really think about where you are, where you want to be, and if you're financially okay and not at a too high of a burn rate of money month over or week over week, month over month, and are able to do it. Now, I talk about this all the time with in regards to entrepreneurs that want to start their own business and and leave their 9 to 5 or leave whatever financial backing situation they're in. And it's one of those things that you have to be able to create a runway for yourself, and that runway might need to be 1 to 2, 3 years. So that's a lot of money that you might need, right? But it's also maybe not a ton of money that you need. The money that you need, can be reduced by reducing credit cards, expenditures. I don't necessarily agree with the idea that, like, hey, you want to be a millionaire, cut out the Starbucks coffee or whatever. Like, we also want to live a life, so there's a balance. Maybe getting the $6 drink every single day, 5 days a week isn't necessarily the answer. Maybe getting it 3 times a week is the answer. I'm not here to tell you one way or the other. You got to figure out what works for you, because if you're unhappy, it ain't going to make a difference. You're not going to be very happy in pursuing what you're going for. So you got to make that decision yourself. Now, with that said, I did want to talk about this real quick, adding this video, and I will link this down below. The real reason the economy might collapse by Robert Reich. I assume that's how you say his name. Really good video. If you haven't watched it yet, you absolutely should. It talks about how the economy has become unsustainable because the top 1% have like 90% of the finances in their control, which is not good. It becomes unsustainable. And the last time that happened, it was the Great Depression, or led right before the Great Depression. So, it's one of the things that's like, we need to find ways to get the balance of power back so that there's at least some give and take between the top 1% and the rest of society, the rest of the world, really. So, I'm not anti-millionaire, billionaire. What I am is I'm pro-people, and I want, in order for people to be able to sustain any kind of life that enables even the millionaires and the billionaires to be able to sustain their kind of life, it requires everybody to be able to play the game of not monopoly, economy. And this is why it's so important that, when we talk about the lowest end income earners, that we help, support them in a way that enables them to be able to go and buy. He's a bad example, but a good example, Henry Ford, right? Like, why do we have the 5-day work week? Well, Henry Ford gave people off on Saturday. Why? Because on Sunday they had to go to church. They didn't have time to go to the car dealership and buy one of his cars. Well, if they can't go buy a car and they don't make enough money to buy a car, how's he going to afford to be able to produce the car? There's only so many millionaires and billionaires in the world, and they can only buy so many things, as this video points out. Like, hey, people can only buy so many pairs of jeans, realistically, right? So many haircuts a year, so many this and that, thing. There's only so many things that those high-end income earners can buy per year. So the money has to be filtered somehow, some way back down to the lowest so that the majority of people can spend the money so that the businesses can earn more revenue. And yeah, so again, go check out the real reason the economy might collapse. I will maybe I'll link it over here on this side of the video for you to go watch, and it'll be linked down in the description as well. Panic ordering by retailers is making the supply chain crisis even worse. Supply chains everywhere have been hit by massive disruptions this year, from container shortages to floods and COVID infections setting off port closures. Suddenly, retailers and manufacturers are over ordering because of these supply chain issues, and that's just leading to essentially an even worse scenario, says Jonathan Savior, CEO of a supply chain technology firm. Quincus told CNBC's Squawk Box Asia on Monday the energy crises in mainland China and Europe are the latest to roil the shipping industry. So this, my wife went to Target yesterday, and she's like, she just wanted to go buy a couple of jackets for the kids. And there was no jackets, apparently. There wasn't much of anything, apparently, when it comes to winter clothes or fall clothes. So not a great sign. Not a great sign when, we're in fall. And I know that the seasons for clothes run differently than, most things, but come on, it's October and it's been like 70 degrees almost every day except for like the last 3 days. So if that's the case, like there's still got to be some kind of jackets or some kind of winter apparel left. I mean, we're not even at winter yet. We're just we're barely getting into the fall season. So yeah, that's not a great sign, and this is part of that rubber banding effect that I've talked about in past videos, where it's like, things change, but then it takes a while for those effects to be felt. And in the case of over ordering, there's only so many ships to go out, and people are fighting for that. That's why some of these companies have chartered their own ships, and bigger companies, Targets, the Walmarts of the world, have chartered their own ships to make that happen. And it will back things up where, it's like, oh, what used to take 30 days, 30 days notice to get that stuff from wherever it's coming from to here in the States is now maybe it's 45 days, maybe it's 60 days, maybe it's 90 days. It might be here in the States, but it's buried under other crates. Or there isn't enough truck drivers to be able to get the stuff there, or trucks available, or even trailers available. If depending on how the supply chain is for trailer manufacturers to be able to produce enough trailers. I know last year we were talking with one of the companies that we deal with, and they were talking about how their trailers were already sold out for 2021, and this was like in the middle of 2020. I know it might have been the beginning of the summer of 2020, and they were already sold out through 2021 for trailers. So, there's and then if they were even able to get the supplies that they need by the time, to be able to fulfill said orders at that point. So there's a whole, cascading rubber banding effect, and over ordering is not necessarily panic ordering, as they say on CNBC here, is not necessarily going to help us at all. It might help a few things here, dribs and drabs come through, but ultimately could actually be worse for everybody involved. John Deere equipment is scarce and pricey. The John Deere strike has farmers worried. Let's see. Joel Everett said he was astounded when the lightly used 2009 John Deere tractor sold at his last auction in Strawberry Point, Iowa, for tens of thousands of dollars more than it had cost originally, fresh off the production line more than a decade ago. bought new for 109,000. The tractor sold for 143,000 at auction. He said it's not an isolated incident, said Everett, who has run Joel's tractor and auction since 1992. A lot of farm equipment, particularly used tractors, is selling for 30% to 50% more than it was going for 2 years ago at his auction house. It's been unreal, Everett said. Our last sale was the biggest dollar sale we had ever had, and we're fixing to have another in 3 to 4 weeks. That's going to blow that one away. And then you combine with the strike and them not being able to get new tractors coming out of the manufacturing plants. It's got us worried for sure. Eric Hopkins, the senior vice president of Hunley Farms, which boasts 20,000 acres of mostly vegetables in Central Florida. They're already low on inventory and parts right now. A strike is only going to exacerbate things, make it worse. If it lasts for a while, not only will they not have any new tractors, but when you have a breakdown, there's no parts. Your tractor is going to sit there and not be able to harvest or plant or crop, which obviously in the farming market is terrible, because there's only a certain window of time that plants and vegetables and crops will last before they have to be harvested, or they will just die right there. From my understanding, you have to move around the plot of land in which you plan on, because of the fact that if you don't, you will farm said land and nutrients out of that land and create a bigger problem for you and everybody. So yeah, this could be another chain reaction problem that we're going to run into in the coming weeks or months. As I said in the previous video about John Deere, the strike, I think it's great that they want to go for more benefits. My hope is that it doesn't last past 30 days, because then the effects will really start to be felt for everybody. And I hope that the people at John Deere who just set a record-breaking profit year for themselves, I think at something like $6 billion or 5.7 to $5.9 billion for this year, they're on track to do. Realize that the bigger impact here is getting the workers back to work. We need them in order to get to not have a food crisis as well, and scarcity there. So, it's scary, and like I said, not to panic yet, but like I said, hopefully 30 days is the max that they will have to endure. And with that said, there's plenty of other strikes going on that are going to, with the effects very well could be felt for months to come. AMC CEO teases change to movie chain's business model, but mum on details. It's kind of like I didn't know if I was going to include this article or not, but I when I saw who they had on here, you got Trey's Trades. Shout out to him. If you don't watch him, he's a lot of fun to watch on the day trading side on YouTube. His live streams. But yeah, it's basically it's a big news with no news. In an interview with Milken Global Conference, Aaron was for the first time told Fox Business that the world's biggest movie theater chain will soon undergo a meaningful change to its business model. He declined to go into details, but did say that the change will emphasize the new direction he's taking the company. So once meme stock, still kind of meme stock. In fact, to go along with this meme stock, I was Meet Kevin here on YouTube was talking about how the short squeeze on GameStop hasn't happened yet. It's still to be seen. So we'll see. I mean, I don't have any GameStop or AMC stock at this point. I've bailed out of both. Kind of wish I had kept in the AMC stock because I had it pretty darn cheap compared to where it is right now. But they were able to get some big gains out of the Halloween Kills movie, and I think as Trades points out here in this clip, look, people like to go, like, people will still watch the NFL, right, on TV. They'll watch the sports, whatever sports games on TV, but they also still like to go to the actual game for that different experience. It's a different everything. Personally, I mean, I like going to a baseball game, but like when it comes to football, I've been to a handful of them, and football is the American football, not soccer. Uh, and yeah, to me, it's okay, it's fine, but I'd prefer the experience of watching it on TV on the couch, being able to eat my nachos and enjoy the game, being able to pause TV, get all the replays and things right there. Being in the crowd is, it's cool, it's fine, but it's not nearly as I don't know, it's a different experience, and that's what he's saying about AMC is like, and going to the movie theater in general, it is a different experience. And with that said, like me personally, I've mostly watched movies in my personal movie theater, like here at the house. We don't go out to the movies very often. And when we do, it's a special movie or it's a movie for the kids because I want the kids to still get that experience as well, at least until movie theaters aren't a thing when they're older. I don't know, I'm not predicting the future, but it is an experience. I want them to have that experience, but that doesn't mean I'm going to go to the movies every Friday like I was when I was a teenager, 98, 99, 2000, 2001, 3, 4. So those, it's just different. It's just different. And certain movies, yeah, certain big movies, I will once the pandemic subsides, I will go back to the movie theater. Let's see. We got a Chicago pizzeria said it's temporarily closed because of the labor shortage, costing it $5,000. Its owner said job applicants weren't turning up to interviews. So the bullet points here, and I'll link this article down below. The pizzeria in Chicago couldn't open on Sunday because it's of short staffing, costing it $5,000, its owner said. The owner of Coal Fire Pizza said some staff had quit for higher paid jobs at larger restaurants. And the final bullet point, which I thought was most interesting, which, I mean, obviously it's a shame that this owner had to close on Sunday due to not having staff. People were avoiding restaurant jobs partly because of the reputation of a toxic work environment. A pizzeria in Chicago said it couldn't open. We were closed today. I simply do not have enough people, so they wrote on their social media. In nearly 15 years of selling pizza, this has never happened. Coal Fire had boosted its starting salary for cooks with little to no prior experience from $15 to $18 an hour. Staff also got paid time off and overtime pay and were able to enroll in a health plan with half the costs by the company. Independent restaurants say they struggle to compete with bigger companies on wages and benefits. Businesses across the U.S. are suffering from a huge labor shortage, making it harder for them to find last-minute cover when their staff are ill. Other restaurants have had to close with little notice after suddenly finding themselves short-staffed, such as Pennsylvania Chicken Restaurant that was closed for a day, and a Georgia Burrito Restaurant that temporarily cut its opening hours after its entire staff quit. Oh, that should open that article up there. It's on for Business Insider. I'm gonna have to sign up for some of these sites. I just don't want to have to. Yeah. Anyway, Americans quit their jobs in search of better wages, benefits, and rising cases of the Delta were also deterring some people from applying to jobs. Yeah. So I mean, it's the story of 2020, 2021, and the continued effects of what's going on. And look, the biggest companies they have the most amount of money, they have the most amount of funds and revenue and public trust for them to go to buy from. So they're going to have the best opportunity to get those employees, and that's why I'll link the video up here. Where I talk about like let's change what benefits, what differentiators you can offer for your company to attract people, right? Try to think outside the box. So in one case, talked about the you can write off $5,200 in an education benefit to your employees so they can go and get tuition, and you can write up to 5,200 off for books and the tuition. There's pay work today, pay tomorrow, or pay today. There's companies are working with ADP and that other one, I can't think of the name, but to offer these kinds of services so that the it's just one less barrier to entry for a potential employee to want to come and work for you. Looking at offering health benefits is another opportunity. I think what's really crazy is the restaurant industry for years have paid people like $2 an hour, and then you get your tips, and that's supposed to be enough. And I don't agree with that. I think tipping is fine. I have a love-hate relationship with it, but in the short term, it's needed because if you're getting paid $2 an hour, you need something to compensate for that time, that effort and energy and all that you're putting into being there. So I personally would like to see that change, and I know it has changed across the country, slowly but surely. But yeah, I mean, it is crazy, right? And the effect on the economy of paying somebody with no experience as a cook $18 an hour is going to have a ripple effect on everything, especially if and when those big companies like Amazon, Target, Walmart are able to fulfill all the positions that they have, their needs at that level. You're paying somebody $18 an hour, like somebody was making $19 an hour and they're an experienced cook, or $20 an hour and they're an experienced cook. Well, now they want to make more money too. And it does start to create a groundswell of issues towards inflation that, could take a few years to catch up. With that said, if you watch the video that I recommended in a previous video about the real reason the economy might collapse from Richard or Robert Reich, that says that productivity is the X factor of how these companies have been able to create so much wealth so rapidly, and wages have almost stagnated over the last 20, 30 years. So these are the types of things where when productivity goes up, the wages need to be in check as they, to increase with them, and they haven't been. So now you get the Band-Aid effect of ripping it all off all at once, and then everybody feels like, oh, wow, like, everything's going to come to a grinding halt. Well, it shouldn't, because I always say, like, if you're not giving raises to your employees on the regular, if you're not setting them up on a schedule, you're setting yourself up for failure, because they're going to want a raise at some point. It's like, oh, well, I didn't get a raise every 3 months, I didn't get a raise every 6 months, I didn't get a raise every year. Now it's 2 years later and I need all these raises, and you're like, whoa, I didn't prepare for all that. Well, guess what? You should have been, because the cost of living goes up every single year. Inflation goes up every single year, 2%. Productivity is going up every single year as technology gets better, and you got to be able to keep pace with that. So I hadn't been talking about this. Biden admin backs down on tracking bank accounts with over $600 in annual transactions. So basically they were like, hey, we're gonna track any transactions that are. Well, apparently it was in annual transactions. I thought it was any singular transaction of $600 or more. But any bank account that shows $600 or more in annual transactions, the transaction limit is $10,000. I believe it's $10,000 right now. But even if you got close to $10,000 in transactions, it might post a red flag for you to get audited by the IRS. I can't say I support this because $600 is not a lot, and I feel like you're going after the wrong people, right? I feel like the money and the time and the effort and the manpower to figure this all out, figure out where we can get, capture more money for the economy and America, in general, should be coming from investing in the percentage wise into the bigger companies, right? Not to Americans or that have bank accounts that move $600 a year. It's like saying like, oh, I have billions of dollars, and I'm here to open up I don't know, a couple million bank accounts so that I could put $600 in each one of them. Like that doesn't seem very reasonable to try to. There's other tax loopholes, and things that people have used, offshore accounts, even onshore accounts. Apparently, South Dakota is a big place to hide money. There's a video I was watching. I don't have it in front of me, but I will get it and try to put it in the description. And that's where people are hiding large sums of money. And if that's the case, let's make sure that those people are on the up and up. To go after somebody who's like, oh, I have a bank account, I move $600 a year. It just doesn't seem like there's enough there. There's not enough money to be made to warrant the manpower, the time, the effort, like or the money investment at all to find it. So I'm really glad to see that this is they're backing down on this. I don't think that it was worth the time, effort, or anything. So finally today, I came across this article about a guy who calls himself Mr. 50K a day. Now, I'm not here to talk negatively about names. I go by Super Joe Pardo affectionately, and I appreciate it that people feel that way and call me that. And that's where the name came from. But yeah, so former clients say online marketing coach owes them thousands for failed business deals. Now, there's a video here. It's 5.5 minutes. I'll link down below so you can go and check out the video. But this guy is a Maryland man, Greg Davis, calls himself Mr. 50K a day, and he apparently is being sued because he was not providing the business results that he was expecting. So the NBC affiliate in Washington, D.C. actually reached out to Greg Davis, was able to get him to do an interview. And his reasoning was, well, I'm no longer doing 50K a day anyway, but I'm not going to go and tell people that, hey, I'm Mr. 5,000 a day because the illness has put stomped the brakes on how much money I'm able to make every single day. But the reason I wanted to bring this up, I wanted to see, like, what is he doing? What's the secret sauce here that he's able to convince people to pay him 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, $70,000 to work with him to build what kind of business? Well, it's the super affiliate rockstar website that he has here. Superaffiliaterockstar.com, which is actually not a .com. It's a WordPress.com website. Though I did find he does have his own website. It looks like, but if you go to the main site, it's just a blank page at this point, and there's this. I was able to come across this /coaching page, but I'll get back to that. So this WordPress site currently has posts from 2012, just like a couple of them with a couple of testimonials and all that. It kind of boggles my mind that like with such little. So I'm thinking, okay, maybe there's something I'm missing here. Maybe it's all Instagram or something, right? So I go to YouTube. I find him on YouTube. He's got 5,100 subscribers. I go on here in the videos. Let me zoom in a little bit here. And there's actually one video where it says YouTube is where it's at, and that was 9 months ago, 793 views. And it's just I honestly haven't watched really any of these videos. but it's just very, very interesting. I don't see any links to his like Instagram or anything like that. He apparently has almost 500,000 views, which, hey, that's great. Good, good job, Greg. But yeah, I just don't, I don't get it. So I went here, found this coaching page, right? And is it done for you 2-day in-person coaching intensive, 6 months of private personalized coaching, true secrets of 50K a day, blah, 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 blah. And here's some testimonial videos, and it's $50,000. Wow. Okay. That is incredibly expensive, even if we're talking about building up a business from the ground up and delivering everything. The only way to contact him apparently is through coaching at his website.com. The reason I wanted to really bring this up is because this kind of stuff, drives me crazy. Seeing people who are coaching, they're not delivering. Look, if you can deliver on everything that you promised, that's awesome. Like, congratulations, ding ding. And for any business that delivers on what they offer, that's awesome as well. It's when you can't deliver on what you offer, and that goes back to the people that contacted NBC4 in Washington, where they didn't necessarily, they didn't get what they paid for, right? They didn't. The 20,000 got taken, and the results they got were nothing. Now, with that said, affiliate marketing can be super lucrative. It can be. It's not necessarily for everyone. It's one of the reasons why you don't. I mean, I have a few affiliate links down below for services that I use and recommend. You don't see me going and promoting them like crazy or anything like that. But there's a few links. If you have needs, those are the services that I recommend. Use them, don't use them. It doesn't really matter at the end of the day to me. But there are people who have made, their whole living off doing affiliate marketing. There's nothing wrong with it. But promising people something of that magnitude, I mean, $50,000 a day is, I don't know, how much is that a year, right? Times 365. That's $18.25 million a year. I mean, if I was making that kind of money, I don't think I don't even know that I would want to charge anyone $50,000 to get started. I wouldn't even probably offer a one-on-one at that point. It would just be group teachings or something to that effect, and working with the people at a much lower price to enable them the greatest effect. In fact, that's one of the reasons I have a mastermind program of myself, right? In fact, we meet later today. If you go to superjoepardo.com/mastermind, you can find out all about it. It's about it's about supporting and breaking through the issues that you have in the business that you're making. And that's one of the differences that I offer from other people is I'm not offering the box. Like, oh, this is affiliate marketing. This is Lululemon. This is some other kind of like build this business here. I work with businesses from people who come from a place of passion for a craft that they do, and I want to work with those people the most, right? So I'm not going to tell a baker how to be a better baker, but I can tell them how to get their books right, how they can understand their numbers, and how they can get more efficient from a business standpoint, how they can lower their costs, you integrate more technology, have a better working team, assuming they can find people to work with them on their team. And that, I can help with that as well, right? And building a better offer so that it becomes more profitable for that business, not necessarily like let's build a business. With that said, in my mastermind, I have a couple of people who are actively working on building their own businesses, and you do get one-on-one time. and it's only $97 a month. So you get to meet with us 4 times a month, the group, as well as with me once a month, and you have access to me, email, whatever, email, phone, in between, for that support, for that accountability, for breaking through the problems that the hurdles and the challenges that you are dealing with getting your business either off the ground or faster and to off a plateau. Anyway, I appreciate everybody watching and listening to the EntrepreNEWS. It's so fun to get to produce this every single day, getting to read the news and interact with the people in comments. And if you have a story or a question that you want for me to highlight, please ask it down in the comments below or in an Apple Podcast review. Either way would be awesome. I hope you have an amazing day, and I will see you